I would like to make a brief statement about modern Catholicism versus old school Anglo-Catholicism. Okay? So if I ever make a reference to Catholic theology, like St. John of the Cross, St. Teresa of Avila, or if the word saint bugs you, then just say John of the Cross or Teresa of Avila, understand and know the Anglo-Catholic views kind of stop at that Reformation time period, because the view is Catholic theology became absolutely worthless at that point because we have the Protestant Reformation now. Okay, so the point is, in the Anglo-Catholic view, the view held by Wesley and the Methodists, is that the Reformation, and John Knox held to this view as well, that the Reformation is the starting point for theology. Or actually, no, the Bible's the starting point for theology. The second thing is essentially the Reformation. But here's the thing. In Anglo-Catholicism, this applies to the Methodists and this applies to the Covenanters. They didn't just ignore Thomas Aquinas. They didn't just ignore, every single Christian book ever written in the history of the Catholic Church. It's just that they had sunglasses on, or not sunglasses. They had prescription glasses that were prescribed to them by an optometrist named Dr. Martin Luther. And this optometrist, by the name of Dr. Luther, gave the Anglo-Catholic theologians, aka Anglican and Covenanter, Church of Scotland and Church of England, Wesley and Knox. Dr. Luther gave them, as a theological optometrist, he gave them eyeglasses so that they could view Catholic theology through his eyes. Luther was the same way. Anybody who's read enough Luther understands the guy's quoting Catholic theologians way more frequently than Baptist preachers would today. So again, it's like you have to be so grounded in Reformed theology as a starting point before you can actually expand your understanding of your personal Christian spirituality and see into Catholic theology the good parts that the Protestant reformers left out. That is, usually it's going to be teaching on sanctification or teaching on miracles and the supernatural. And you're always usually looking backwards, not forwards. So we're not looking towards modern Catholic. We're not usually, no. In the Anglo-Catholic view, you're not looking at Catholic books that were written in the 1600s or the 1700s or the 1800s or the 1900s, unless those books are mainly focused on Catholic writers from the 1500s and before. Okay, so it's usually you're going to find that in Anglo-Catholic that Teresa of Avila is kind of like the stopping point. You don't go past her because she was a contemporary of Luther. So everything before Teresa is acceptable, provided that you're chewing on that stuff through the lens of Dr. Luther, through the eyeglasses of Dr. Luther. All right. If you don't, you will remain a cessationist and you will cut the Holy Spirit off. You will cut him off from your life. The Bible says, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. And that's what happens to cessationists. They're no different than deists. They harden their hearts. Oh, it's a hallucination. Oh, that doesn't happen today. Whatever you want to say, it's hardening your hearts. And so if you want teaching on the Holy Spirit, you got to look at the Catholics. I'm sorry. There's just no way around it. There's no way around it. You would say, oh, I can look at Wesley. Yeah, that's the safe way. But even with him, he's looking at the Catholics. They're the ones. They hammered out Holy Spirit theology. They hammered it out. Pneumatology. It was these deist London Puritans that wrote the Westminster Confession that turned their back on the Holy Spirit. That's what they did. They turned their back on the Holy Spirit. I believe that. I believe that. The only Reformation people that didn't were the Anglicans and the Church of Scotland. That was it. People who followed like Wesley and people who followed like John Knox. They didn't turn their back on pneumatology as an experience. But those London guys, those Banner of Truth guys, 90% of them did. It was Renaissance. And it was anti-Catholic. And it was anti-Catholic because it was the Renaissance. God bless out there. This is John with WesleyGospel.com.